Hello, and welcome to this next session of Fearful Symmetries, which is a new interwar period Trail of Cthulhu campaign from Pelgrane Press that is about magicians in England and folklore and folk horror and Blake and a lot of other things. It is a mythos obscured or mythos light, I would say, version of Trail of Cthulhu. So I'll honestly say, if part of the reason you haven't tried Trail is that you don't really care for all the mythos stuff, this is a great opportunity to play around with that. It is buried at the back, but I think a clever GM could take the great tools that are here and rework them as they wish. Last time, our protagonists settled matters at Ashby Wake and were able to claim the lay point there and received the papers from Carnacki and also have spells that we're going to talk about here in a moment. They also got some build points to spend. So I do want to go around and check in with everyone and see what people are buying, or are you sitting on your points or whatnot. Wilford, what are you thinking here?
I went for one in the sort of personal skills. So I went for one in flattery, one in interrogation, and I added a couple of points to contacts. That's now up at 5. Give me 3 spare points because I spent 2 of them in the Hoxton gang.
That's right. I think that's a good thing since we saw that there were some gaps last time in terms of interpersonal skills. I think you filling in those gaps is a good call there. Isabella, what about you?
As discussed, I took advantage of the fabulous suggestion that I have a interpersonal stat called American, and I put 2 points into that so I can make everyone in the room appalled and still get my way. I think that sounds awesome. And I forget what I spent the other point on. I have no idea. Maybe I still have it. Oh,
Did
I
you buy?
still haven't. I
Okay.
haven't spent it yet. So I was trying to decide.
You were talking about putting a point in for a contact for
Oh, yeah.
Was it Annie? Get the NPC.
Annie?
Her name.
Alice.
Alice.
Oh no,
Okay.
no, you're right. No, it is. It's Annie, isn't it?
Annie Kales, the handyman's daughter.
All right. Oh yeah, and I have it, and it was at 0. So yeah, I'll put that point in there. That sounds awesome.
Richard, what about you?
I did it last week actually, so it's hard to remember, but I believe it occurred to me that we're probably going to spend a lot of time looking at things like barrows and mounds and things. So I put a point into archaeology because that would be very useful to have, right? And I put another point into reassurance because it occurred to me I am probably the closest to a nice face in the group, that doesn't walk around waving a gun. And reassurance is the most common one in terms of, trust me, I'm about to do some weird, spooky stuff around your place, and you don't need to call for the men in the white van, the white suits, kind of thing.
That sounds perfectly fair. Yes.
I then, with the other stuff, I put another point in stability because that seems like it's going to be coming up quite a bit. And with the 2 extra points that I've gained from a revision of previous spends, I put a point in weapons and a point in sense trouble.
Okay. And Dr. Whitewood, I know you had a large bank of build points built up. Have you spent some of those?
Yes, I have. I've spent down to increase my contacts to 4 from 2, one of which is already in Inspector Jepson. I put 1 into art because I was interested in one of the spells in which art was useful, and I thought a little bit of research around Blake might be helpful. And I boosted my reassurance because I seem to be using it a lot, up from 2 to 4. And I think that is why I'm now down to 7 build points.
Okay. So this is kind of, we're going to take a look at sort of some downtime here. Like we finished up the Ashby Wake, and there's a bit of you or check in with your lives back home or with NPCs. Give you a chance if you want to look into or research things. But more importantly, I think for the structure that we have, I want to know sort of which of the spells you're going to study. Now, at meta, more than one person can learn a particular spell. I am fine with that, even though we've got these spell books, but I think it makes sense to let people have those choices. So, Wilford, are you studying one of these spells? And if so, which one is it that you will look into?
That is a really good question. Let me look at the spell sheet, which is linked. I know Richard took the sword, didn't he?
He had been talking about doing the one with the crafting of the knife.
I was quite interested in the animals one.
The Goodwill of the Forest?
Yeah, quite a nice outdoorsy one. So yes, I'm gonna go for that.
Okay. What do you think Wilford does sort of in the days that you have in between? I mean, you have the thing to study from, you're doing that, but outside of that, what are you doing? What are you looking into? I assume you're back at Crispina's house, or do you head back to London?
I think it will be further study in Crispina's library. Yeah, that's a good resource, and I think for Wilfred it shouldn't be missed out.
Mm-hmm. Is there anything in particular beyond the spell book that you are looking into, that you have questions about?
Yeah, I wouldn't mind knowing a bit more about Wayland's smithy.
Okay.
So yeah, I will concentrate my research in that direction.
So I think oral history or occult is appropriate for that.
I will use the 1 point per session spend from the Petit Albert Grimoire.
So you will know that this is a long barrow. It's just to the southwest of Oxford. From the study in the books and the lines and things that you have there, you will see that it definitely lies on a node of the ley lines. It is said that Wayland is a creature of the Fae, but is not beholden to the hierarchy of the fairies, that he operates independently from that. He is known to give blessings and gifts, but can also be temperamental. And I think you will find at least like some notes on auspicious days that are associated with that barrow. Does that seem fair?
Most def.
Yeah, Sherry, your camera just started today. Was it doing that last night, or is it just today that it started to be odd?
Camera?
Oh, does it not show up on your thing?
No, there's not, what's on my thing?
Oh, I'll show you afterwards on the recording that we're getting some weird cyberpunk effects on your camera.
Oh, that's awesome. You know what it might be is the sun is coming in through the slats.
Oh, okay.
And so, yeah, so it might be, you might be getting that.
Okay.
So,
Let us next come to you, Isabella.
okay. Do we have access to both grimoires?
Yes, you can choose
Okay.
any of those 5 spells to learn.
I think come and see
Or
me.
6. Okay.
Come and see me sounds fabulous, if that's okay.
And what do you think like learning that spell involves for you? Like, we haven't really talked about that.
I think for her, she reads it, but then she kind of associates it with a set of physicality, and she repeats like the incantation, but also because like when you practice stage magic, you have to like do it over and over again until you don't think about it. She has a kind of, that's what she works on, is just the sort of repetition, and kind of coming to understanding of what's happening through that repetition. Does that make
Oh,
any
absolutely.
sense?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And outside of that, do you think you're staying in Oxford again, or did you head down to London for a few days? Where do we
Well,
see you?
I think that it would be fair to say a little of both. I think she sends the professor tickets for her father's show, and very much invites him to go see her father perform. And yeah, and on the drive, or essentially the trip up, they talk circumspectly about magic, and then they go and see a show, and dinner in London, and we come back, and that sort of thing.
Okay.
I think in between times she is, how should we say, perhaps strangely forward, but not too much, just in the British sense,
Okay.
that she's interested in him, if that
Okay.
makes any sense.
Well, we'll come back. I'm going to do a second go around on sort of NPC interactions, giving you a chance for that. So
Okay,
we'll
awesome.
do that. Is there anything else that you want to research or look into sort of in between times here?
Well, I mean, it's pretty clear that these ley lines, there's the next few things, so it does make sense, and I do have archaeology and all of those things, so probably would be trying to get, and I will be paging through that book, and trying to put together pieces so I get an idea of what we might be wandering into.
So yeah, why don't you make that spend?
Okay.
Kind of, this is that looking through, trying to find associations, things of significance. And I think that one of the things that will come back to you after kind of paging through and looking at various places is there is a site called Meon Hill, Meon Hill. It's an old sort of ruins of a keep, and it lies on the ley lines, but there are a variety of bits and pieces that you're seeing from. You went particularly to go and get lots of British folklore and fairy tales and things like that, and there's a lot of association with the fae and with fairies there. It feels like there's some connection. It feels precipitous to you. Does that sound fair?
Yes, I'll send a note around to the others just to draw their attention to it.
Okay. Richard, which spell are you going to learn?
Well, Richard has his eyes on all of the spells, of course, right?
Right.
But, I had a rough priority list of them. I want eyes, it takes weeks, right? So I've got to get started on a mirrored blade right now.
Okay.
It'll just be more time, right? So just for the meta talk, my priorities of what we've got currently are mirrored blade, Ariadne's twine, and then come and see me as the three that Richard would like to learn. But
Okay.
let's start with the mirrored blade, I guess, which, as I recall, requires you taking a blade, applying the oils, and you don't, forging one so much as just consecrating it every like regularly enough that the spell begins to take.
Right. There are a set of tools that you need to do to work with. What do you imagine those are? What do you imagine that looks like?
Does it have a description? The tools in the spell description. So I am struggling to find the drive into this Slack.
So basically, this can be used to create a permanent magical object. And it's the magician may use this reflected surface of the blade as a mean to help see past glamours and illusions. And basically, it's just 2 weeks worth of work with that. So, like, do you have a little symbolic forge, or do you have an actual tool set? Like, what do you imagine that is for you?
I think so. The way I've seen it is it's less about forging a blade, right? As mirroring, as like polishing it and mirroring it and making that super thing. So I think that in fact what it is that Richard is taking his the sword cane that he's had lying around for a while as a bit of an affectation. Reminds him of his fencing days back at college. Always wanting to have it for anything. It is a polishing it with a scrap of cloth from an executioner's hood.
Okay.
He's taken from Tower Bridge, because I think we've still got execute hangmen going on in the 1930s at this point, right? I think, yeah. I think it was much later than that it ended, but a hood that was used to in the execution of men and spirits, and sending them on through the veil and polishing that with beneath the light of the moon each night kind of thing. It's just a dedication of it, and maybe taking the blade for like silver plating kind of thing, so it's more reflective kind of along the top. Obviously, as the magic goes on, it will go from a very delicate foil to unnaturally solid, right? And that's what he's going to be doing every night for
do you imagine
that? Tell me when I have to spend some living points for it.
Yeah, we'll probably come to that in a bit. But let me ask you this: when you're doing that process, does that for you? Does that process of creating that magic thing? Does it feel empowering? Does it feel scary? Does it feel eerie? Like what's the feeling that for Richard he has doing this thing?
I think it feels reassuring, like ritualistic, like it is every evening a practice, a care, a diligence. It becomes that this is right, that this is a thing that you are doing, and that you are following the right movements, you are doing the right patterns, and every night the blade feels just that bit more real, and all of this feels more and more real.
Okay. So let's actually, now you mentioned it, let's go ahead and resolve the spellcasting roll here. It is a stability test, difficulty of 5. This is to actually cast the spell, to actually do the magical effect. And it'll be a 4 if you make a craft or an art spend. And then the cost, regardless of whether you make the roll or not, will be 3 pool points, but also you're going to have to invest either 1 stability or 1 health rating point.
Okay. Well, I have a bunch of art spare due to the way that Gumshoe, gives you, for every point that you put into the stat, you can choose a different type of art, right? So
Yep.
That was art writing. What do we think would be a good art for this? Because I don't see it as craft necessarily.
Engraving.
Engraving? Yeah, why not? Yeah, that's a perfect one.
Etchings.
Yeah. Similar with etchings.
So stability test then is difficulty 4 for you.
And hey, why not? I will spend 3 points because I want to pass this.
All right. Then you don't need to roll.
Yeah.
But you do spend an additional 3 for the spell casting cost.
Oh, I see. Yeah.
Yeah. This one is a little bit different than the standard roll to resist. This is an active creation combined there.
Mm-hmm.
Now you can, if you wish, spend magic points to substitute for stability points.
Yeah, maybe save that for when
Okay.
It's crunch time and I'm down to my last couple of stability points.
Are you investing your health or your stability into this object?
So I can 1 point rating. I forgot about that, isn't it? The full-on rating, so I would lose from 12 stability or my 12 health. Well, that's an easy one to do, isn't it? You know what? The magic requires more stability than it does health, so let's say health.
Okay. So there is a bit of a drop of your blood, an investment of your physicality to create this object.
Yeah. Each night the oils with which I must polish the blade right and everything right, it includes but a single drop of blood that I slice off onto the blade each night. But over time, and obviously symbolically, gains far more magical power through that.
Excellent.
Cool.
Doctor,
How many sessions do you think before I get to use said blade? As a question.
We'll find out, won't we?
I know, because it's got to be a couple of weeks, right? So
yeah. But we will say, for purposes of this, just for the meta, that you have the blade now at this point when we come back. Dr. Whitewood, which of these spells do you wish to learn?
Well, it was going to be come and see me, because I think it played to his reassurance thing, but I think it would make more sense not to double up yet. So I've traded back the art that I spent on in favor of archaeology, and I've also spent one for anthropology. And I think that Arthur is spending this period of time reading everything he can about Nodens. Because I am interested in Contact Nodens, the ritual.
What is it about that calls to you?
Oh, well, because Nodens is a god of the most primitive people of these islands, and that is the root of Albion, surely.
And it is a full ritual that you have to perform at an auspicious place at a particular time. What do you imagine, besides studying notes, what is the process of learning that spell for you? How are you taking that in?
I think it's the archaeology and anthropology to read everything on that time, those places. And it is to then in that kind of almost late Victorian way.
Yes,
to then say,
encyclopedias genealogical approach.
Exactly. But also, of course, one will need some druidic robes and a supply of woad.
Absolutely. Your wife might be a little amused by this.
Certainly, when I start cutting up some sheets.
We have people who can do that for you.
Yeah, indeed. I mean, there's probably someone in Wales that I can get to send me a set of druidic robes. though there may be some difficulties because I'm not technically a druid or a
Mhm.
bard. So
That
so
would
yeah, I
seem to
think-
be a good contact.
Yes, it might be, mightn't it?
Yeah.
I'm gonna invest one contact now in the
Properly
chief
Welsh
druid.
name.
Yeah, exactly. I'll look up who was the chief druid in 1934 or so.
Okay.
I'm sure it's written down somewhere. And I will knock one of those contacts down. There we go. Okay.
And besides that, what are you looking into in the interim?
I think I think that's it. That is
Okay.
that is just immersing myself in everything there is to know about that time, that place. It plays into my Praetor and Zoa Bromion because I get 3 bonus knowledge points when I kind of it's just the rabbit hole. It's the Encyclopedia Britannica version of getting lost in Wikipedia.
So I think one of the things that you will definitely see in the druidic lore is that place that you've identified as Dragon Hill that's been mentioned before is certainly a place of power. Like I think you will confirm that for yourself. But as well, you will get the name of this. Hang on one second. It's let me find a name here real quick. I apologize.
That's okay. Goodness. There's a lot. There's a lot in those books.
Yes. One of the things you will find is that there is a mention of a bad tree, of a tree that it's unclear whether that something happened to it or the druids did something or unclear. But it is apparently a very significant beech tree that lies on the Walton Montjoy estate.
And we know that is linked to Portmore, don't we?
You do. That is his estate.
Yeah. That's all very interesting. Thank you. Do you want me to spend that? I wasn't certain if you wanted me to actually spend that.
Yeah.
Anthropology,
Do you think does that feel oral history or occult? Which do you, or archaeology?
I think probably archaeology.
Okay.
There we go. And yes, and then I think working out exactly where the best place on the South Downs overlooking the channel is the best place to raise Nodens.
Okay.
But just to please Paul, I do travel to East Anglia to collect the plants for woad.
Okay. That seems appropriate. Let's go around and I want to go in reverse order and have everybody call a scene with an NPC or with another PC sort of in the interim, just to kind of illustrate where your character is at, what they're thinking, and it may involve investigation or it may not. It's up to you. So, Arthur, what is the scene that you would like to call? Who do you want to interact with?
I think I'd like a conversation with Wilford.
Okay.
Because I am slightly nervous about because I think that we need Noden's guidance on where to go next. But I am slightly nervous about setting off to a remote location on a cliff top without bag carrier and escort. A safe pair of countryside hands.
So you find Wilford at Crispina's house, engaged in research. The housekeeper has been regularly cleaning things up, perhaps a continually like slightly despairing look at Wilford that this is, but she takes care of everything. But you find Wilford there looking and studying those spell books. How do you broach this conversation, Arthur?
Very straightforwardly, my dear chap. I need your help.
Oh yeah, and what be that about?
I need you to accompany me to the south coast.
Oh, south of London.
Indeed.
By train?
That would seem logical to me.
And for how long?
I think probably no more than several days and nights. A few days before the auspicious date, and conceivably a day after it.
I can assist.
I'll get out the Ordnance Survey map and I'll point out a location where perhaps there is an old hill fort within walking distance of the White Cliffs, somewhere somewhere south of London.
Okay.
And that's where we're heading. So I'll make the arrangements at a local hostelry, and I shall telephone you when the tickets await you at the railway station in Oxford.
Okay, or send a telegram.
I will telegraph you.
Excellent. Yeah, via London, I'll be there.
That is very kind of you. I am very grateful for your help.
No problem.
May the Knights of Albion triumph.
Indeed, through transcendence.
Indeed.
Do you want to resolve out this spellcasting?
I want to go down
Okay.
there and I want to I want to do the deed.
Absolutely. So it is a trip to the White Cliffs, to again, you said south, so this is like south of East Anglia, right?
Yeah, this is the other side of London.
Okay. Yeah. And the two of you will go. It's, I think we said it was autumn. So it's crisp out here. And there is a bit where the two of you have to hike. Yeah. So did you notice the fine print on Nodens?
Oh yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Yes, I mean that is but an unfortunate complication.
Okay.
But because I noticed that you raised your interpersonal skills in the last term.
I know, because in the next investigation that'll be fine, but now I need to know. Nodens needs to tell me what is our next logical step to return Crispina.
I admit I had wondered if the whole quarterly was the same investigation.
Oh, really?
No, I think we've broken up into cases, so I think that will be fair. So, you will go to contact Nodens. This is a ritual that you have to carry out, and the two of you will march up to this place. And
I will have obtained appropriate druidic gowns for Wilford, just in case.
It
That
looks similar to Hessian sackcloth that I'm probably already wearing.
so this is the first time that we've done a ritual, and this is a longer term thing, and there are inertias that are fighting against this. So a ritual is a contest against a summoned creature. And I have a pool of points. The goal is to overcome that pool through what you're doing here. Now, you can have Wilford help with this. Wilford can contribute magic, can also contribute stability to this. It is a cooperative spend, which means that if Wilford spends 2 points, you get 1 point towards what you're doing. So
there is no compulsion on you, Paul, to do the spend, because I was looking for a countryman to get me here safely, not necessarily to sacrifice things.
So you have the proper occult and archaeology spend. So you may mark one of those off, and you will begin that ritual. This is an opposed ritual, which means I need to open up the roller.
Oh,
because the way this works is Nodens is spending points against you. That's the stability pool that is being exhausted here as we go through this. There is, at the start, a 3-point stability cost to cast the spell. So that comes off before we do anything else.
I've reduced my stability to 12.
Okay. So you will begin the ritual. Standing on the cliff, I think the weather changes very quickly.
The sea begins to get rougher.
Yeah. The rain starts coming down, slightly sleeting here as you begin to do this call.
Oh, Nodens, Lord of Britain, come to my call.
And now you're going to make the test for actually doing the spell, and then we'll go to the ritual. How many do you want to spend on this?
So difficulty is 4.
Difficulty is 4.
So I will spend another 3 stability.
Okay. Go ahead and make that roll. Oh, you don't actually have to roll. I'm sorry. But yes, you will make that roll. You will do the invocation as promised, as you've read. You get it there, and you will feel the force of this power resisting you, of it trying not to come into the world. And I will roll for Nodens. And right now, at the start, I've spent 3 points at the pool, and I have an 8.
And what does that mean?
What that means is you now need to make a stability roll, and you need to get an 8 or better. With the 3 points that you invested at the start are taken off his pool, so he's at a 17 right now. He spent another 3, so he's at 14 left. I think very quickly you will realize that you are desperately going to need Wilford's assistance on this.
Wilford, hold my hand.
Now, because I am a generous GM, I am going to say, for purposes of rituals like this, 1 point of magic will get you 3 points of stability for purposes of these kinds of long-term rituals.
Okay, well then I will spend 1 point of magic.
Okay.
So that gives me 3.
3. And how much stability do you want to spend?
I will spend Oh, sorry, that's the wrong. That's not me. Oh, yes, it is. I beg your pardon. That's me. I will spend. What are we looking at? I will spend another 2 stability to get 5 in toto.
Okay.
And I'm looking to beat 8.
You need to hit 8 or better.
D6 plus 5
I will throw in
is
1
10.
point.
10. So you don't have to spend anything, Wilford. So there is this give as you draw this force closer into the world. You reach through to contact Nodens. And Nodens' pool is down to 14. And I will spend again. This will take Nodens' pool down to 11. And this time it is just a 6. Now, Wilford, if you wish to spend to assist, however much you spend, and you can also spend your magic points at a 3-to-1 ratio, Alan will get 1 less. So let's say you were spend a point of magic, he would get 2 if you did that.
I will throw in a point of magic.
Okay. Draw on your connection to the ley line. So Arthur, you will get 2 points. How much more do you wish to spend?
I'm going to spend another magic point to get me 5 in toto.
5. Okay. Then
Oh, no,
let's
I don't need. No, hang on. I'm looking to beat 6.
lead to beat 6. However, if you beat it by a significant margin, it will reduce the pool further. So
Oh, I see. Okay, right. Well, then let me do that then. So I'm looking at D6 plus 5 against a 6.
yeah.
And I will throw in a point of stability while I'm at it.
Okay.
That's plus 7. Here we go. Oh, that's a 1. That's an 8. So this knocks it down by 2 to 9.
So he is at 11. He rolled a 9, which is just enough to get a little bit of extra edge. So we'll take his pool down to a 10.
Okay, right.
But it still continues. Like Wilford gives you the strength, but you can feel the cracks here. You can feel the push. I mean, you are contacting a god, an otherworldly force.
But he is a god of Britain. He is Albion incarnate. Surely he must realize that this is a good cause.
I will spend 3 and roll. Again, I have a 6.
Okay, well, I'm all magicked out. We're down to stability now. 6 to beat. I will spend.
I will throw in my magic point.
Okay. 2 points to you, Arthur.
And another 2 points of stability. Take me down to 4.
Yes.
So D6 plus 4. That's a 9.
That is a 9 against a 6. So we will tick it down. It went to 7. So now it is at 6. You are close to the threshold. 2 more steps, 2 more footprints on the path. And I do think that there is a bit where part of what's going on is you are kind of being pulled towards that cliff edge, and you're having to physically move yourself back as you feel it trying to draw you out.
Back, Mr. Whitewood, back. Don't go towards the light.
And given that we know that the cost of this is the loss of your interpersonal skills, I think my grip on Wilford becomes 1 less of security, 1 more of leeching. The fingers are, going into his arm, seeking more power.
Let's roll for Nodens. Look at that. It's just a 4. That's the penultimate step here. How many points do you want to spend?
Remind me what happens if your stability reaches 0.
Well, let's go ahead and take a look back at that under the rules. So damage and healing. Stability. From 0 to -5, you are shaken, and the difficulty of all general tests increased by 1.
Oh, then this can go negative. Hell,
100%.
So I've got 4 to beat.
Yes. You just don't want to mess the spell up at this point because you will take additional stability damage.
Okay. Well, I am going to invest 5 stability, taking me down to -1.
Okay.
And roll d6 plus 5.
Okay.
That is
So that's
11.
So it is another point off of here. That last little step, Arthur. And how do we know that you are like starting to crack?
I think my eyes have rolled up in my head. All you can see is the whites of my eyes, or perhaps the eyes themselves are being affected. I am raving at the storm. Raving.
Nodin's last roll made it +2, the last little bit of this inertia. Oh, well, Nodin's wants to come through. How much do you want to spend, Arthur?
I am going to spend another. Did you say -4 or -5? Was the threshold?
Oh, it's -6. You're losing money not spending.
Oh, then in which case, I will spend another 4 to get to -5 stability. So that's d6 plus 4. That is 9.
And you
Come,
will
ye spirits who tend on mortal thoughts.
You will feel that crack, and you will feel that gaze of Nodin's upon you, and that sense of acknowledgement that you have contacted Nodin's, and you know that he will come to you now in a dream. And Wilfred, the wind dies.
And Arthur just collapses onto his knees with his forehead on the ground.
I think I'll grab him and settle him so on a rock, and then I'll reach for the thermos. And weak tea, Mr. Whitewood.
But we did it, Wilford. We did it. We did it.
Indeed
We contacted
you
a
did.
god. A god is in our service.
Excellent. Have some tea. Recover. You look as if you need it. Will he help us?
Is there any way Wilford can rebuild my stability with this act of kindness? I'm not certain.
Does Wilford have psychological triage as an ability?
No. I doubt it.
So that would be no.
I do.
But you cannot do it to yourself.
You know, though, I think weak tea counts for at least 1 point.
We'll come back. Stability will regain over time.
You can recover your own stability, but you only recover 1 point for every psychoanalysis point you spend.
Yeah. So for this particular thing, though, once we get to this level, you can recover that stability via psychological triage from another PC or from talking with one of your sources of stability.
Okay.
So we'll come back to that because you're
what
going
I'm
to
going
be.
to do, I'm going to knock all my interpersonal skills down to spent.
Okay, I think that
would
seems
be a
fair.
good way to record it.
Yeah.
But who cares?
We're going to take our first break here. We'll come back with Richard, your NPC interaction, and at the end of all of that cycle, then we'll have Nodin's visit. So we'll do that. So let's take 10 for this first break, and then we'll come back. So I think we cut from sunny Wales to you, Richard. What is it that you want to do? What scene do you want to call NPC, PC during this time?
Can't learn another magic spell.
Pardon?
They learn another magic spell.
No. but I will be a little bit better about that. I'll make sure that you guys have other bites at the apple, but I don't think we have that time,
Um,
especially because you're crafting all during this too.
well, I know, but I thought I would leave time to read, you know. uh, I mean, in terms of scenes, I suppose, unlike Arthur, I'm not seeing an obvious route straight at anything. We've already looked at the Wayland's Forge and the things, and I already dug around into Portmere last session. You know what? Why don't I
Well,
spend
I will make a second. Like one of the things you could certainly do with contacts or something like that is you can try and get people in organizations or inside men or things like that. If there's things you want to follow up on in that way to put those resources into place.
yeah. Suppose because currently I'm not seeing what our next objective is, you know, so I don't know what
Don't worry, Nodens will tell us.
exactly. Nodens will tell us. You know what? I think I would like to pay Mr. Chessover a visit. Why not?
Okay. You will head down to London, back down to the bookstore. It is much as it was before. The stacks are in the same place. There are very few changes from the last time you came through. There is that coming in and it's empty for a bit, and then after a little bit, you will see the assistant, the name again, Haywood, come up. Like he's stuffing some apples in his pocket, weirdly, when he comes up. And he will look and he will say, can I help you?
Yes, I was told this is Mr. Chessover's shop. Yes, looking because Richard actually never went in through the
I
door.
know. Yeah.
Yeah. So, I'm looking for Mr. Chessover. I hear he's got a copy of a rather good book, a rare manuscript, an English Thorn.
Let me go and check with him. Hold on. And he will go and goes and you hear the chest over that kind of from the back, and then Chessover drifts down to where you're at. Hello. How can I help you?
Well, I've heard you're rather the man to talk to about a very specific book, an unauthorized publication of a book called The English Thorn, an English Thorn. Here, you may have fallen into your hands.
Ah, ah, yes. And you see him look both ways, and you see him kind of calculate what particular, are you looking for a first edition or?
Oh, pre-publication, I think this one was a manuscript.
I see.
A manuscript that I believe was stolen. But
Stolen. That's that's I do not deal in stolen goods, so I don't know where you would have obtained this piece of information.
and I will just instantly go to clap him on the shoulder. Of course, my good man. See what happens.
And there is a bit where there is that kind of disruption, where only because you know what you're looking for, you can see that there is that clipping as he reflexively pulls back away from you.
Mm-hmm.
And said, excuse me, bye. Hi.
I suppose I'm not curious about the book, though, Mr. Chessover, more how a man in your particular circumstances comes to run. I imagine it must be a fascinating story, and one in which well, could prove interesting to the right parties.
What is exactly that you mean, Mr.
Fraser.
Ah, that would explain things then, wouldn't it?
It would indeed, sir, and it would indeed explain why perhaps we could have a mutually beneficial relationship at some point. Because I must reassure you that all I seek is to know how this came about.
You hear the kind of an apple, and you see Mr. Haywood gets up and kind of walks past the desk and goes and walks towards the front door. And you'll see him turn the sign to closed. And you'll hear the thud of the lock as he throws the bolt. Go on, Mr. Fraser. My assistant is just making sure that we are not disturbed.
Yes, it would be rather worrying if we were. After all, my but come, tell me, how? Clearly, your man Haywood is capable and able, but well, I think we both understand what the situation is here, don't we? Or I would like to understand more, Mr. Chessover. I understand that it's not personal for you to tell, for it to be relayed, but this is fascinating.
Says, I think you may have misapprehended the situation. Tell me, what do you think the situation is?
I think the dead man runs a bookshop.
Go on.
And if not a dead man, a man who has fallen afoul of a most unusual circumstance and could possibly seek to improve his position. And if he's simply, as he presents to the world, only interested in the acquisition and selling of books, then I feel I could
sense
be of some
danger
use to him there. Yeah. I'll spend 3. Sense trouble.
Yeah. Sense trouble, sense danger.
Yeah. Sorry, I have run into the problem of the double laptop situation briefly.
Oh, sorry, with the roller. Yeah.
Yeah. It's just because I didn't have my desktop on, so it's just been booting up in the background, and I forgot to open the thing. Here we go. One day I will convince them to unblock XYZ, but not today. That is a 5.
Yeah, I think you do hear the pull back of the hammer on the revolver from behind you. And I think you'll instinctively realize that he's a good distance away. Like, he hasn't come too much forward, but that Mr. Haywood has drawn a pistol and is pointing it at you, probably.
What would be?
Mr. Chessover says, it's amazing to me how much books are worth when their authors have perished.
Yes. And if I hadn't informed my brother that I was coming to see you today, this would be a very cunning move.
How do you want to play this? This is my meta. Like, how do you want to try and do this here?
I think, you know what? I'll spend a point of flattery. So what I'm saying to him is that this isn't, listen, I know that you seek to gain the maximum profit from any encounter. Of course, you're a bookseller, and books are worth rather a great deal of money. And this could be worth rather a great deal of money, but I'm not interested so much in your books and your texts as I am in the story, Mr. Chessover.
Mr. Chessover nods and he says, you keep missing the point. You are talking to the wrong person.
To Mr. Haywood.
And you turn and look, and you see Haywood is straightened up, standing a little bit taller. His shoulders aren't as slouched as they were before. And he has the revolver raised and pointed at you. And he says, "You were saying, Mr. Fraser?"
Well, I was saying, what have how has this happened? Clearly, Chessover is a good face for your business, but if you're truly the man behind the bookseller, then, and I'm just going to throw a book through Chessover.
The book will bounce off of him.
Oh, and I go, oh.
And he says, no, no, no. He says, the trick is that he cannot pass through paper.
Ah, fascinating.
Now,
So,
you've stumbled on to our little operation here. Please tell me why I should not simply put most of the bullets from this revolver into you.
well, for the obvious reason that unless you're extremely good at your business, it's going to be rather hard for a man with a slightly less than perfect reputation to cover up the fact that I was here and that I then wasn't here. But secondly, what would it benefit you? Who do you think I'm going to reveal into the world? No, this is just simply fascinating,
do not
Edward.
know, but I had a trio of odd persons come and bring that book to me. And then I had another odd person come and buy it from me. And so it seems to me that you're at the nexus of some very problematic elements, Mr. Fraser.
And I would agree with you there, Mr. Hayward, and this is why I have come to you. Someone stole my manuscript, and now you say that it has been purchased.
Yes.
Now, I would be most interested in knowing who purchased it. I would be most interested in knowing how you're achieving this rather remarkable parlor trick.
You wound me, sir, with the phrase parlor trick.
Is Chessover a man or a manifestation of your will?
See, you say this like you're going to walk out of here at some point alive, and I'm still dwelling on that part of the conversation.
Well, what would you like perhaps a copy of the sequel to An English Thorn?
And why would I trust that you would undertake that to provide me with said book after your reception has been, so we say, somewhat frosty here?
Because you still have things that I want to know, Mr. Hayward. You're saying that I must wait until you are saying you must wait upon receipt of the goods, then by all means. But I, of course, would not come again with such discretion as I have today.
Let's have you spend a point. Do you have bargain?
I don't have bargain, but I could just spend the whole thing. What would I do? I could spend both points of reassurance.
Yeah, I think that's fair. He says, a drop of your blood, so that I will know where you are. That is my price at this moment.
A drop of my blood.
And I will tell you who sold me the book, and I will tell you who bought the book.
And you will not tell me what happened to Mr. Chessover?
I don't think that is at any of your concern.
That's what you need to have said, my man. A drop of my blood and the book, though.
The book is gone, Mr. Fraser.
Should I just pay him for it? Credit rating.
So you want to make a couple of points spend on credit rating to try and convince him that money is better than the blood?
I think it's that he's got his red lines and I've got my red lines, right? And the blood is definitely a red line in terms of
Okay.
not wanting his sympathy, but money.
I think it's 2 points of credit rating.
Yeah, that's fine. Spend 2 points of credit rating. As I put some money down on the table and I say, well, we both know that blood is worth far more, but some things cross both physical and spiritual realms, yes, as I unfurl the banknotes upon the table.
His eyes flash to that, and he says, all right. And he will move back to the door and unlock it. And then he moves so that he is sort of perpendicular to allow you to pass by. You may go.
And the man who brought my book?
I have every reason to believe that you already know, but Dr. Arthur Whitewood.
The bastard. And who purchased it?
My Lord Portmere, of course.
Trust a man in your study. Disgraceful.
You'll forgive me if I don't see you out.
Good day.
Good day. All right, I will cut from that to Isabella. You're riding on the train with
With
Mr.
Sebastian Winthrop.
Mr. Winthrop. He is a delightful conversationalist. Especially once you have the sense that he is a person who is guarded in his interactions, like on the college. He has to be very cautious in his position, with his interests, with his background. So once he has the sense that he can speak to you because you are an American, and outside of those lines of things that he can talk, he will be a little more open about things. And he will tell you that his father was in the service in India, and much to the chagrin of everyone in the family, married as the family says, a local. My mother was a very, very highly placed woman in Indian society. It's no step down for her or for my father when push came to shove. But you can imagine how that was.
I can.
I was sent here rather young to go to school here in England. And it was my uncle, Edgar, who looked after me during those times. And when my father passed away, it was he that had continued to look after my interests.
And I think she sort of goes, I've lived all my life in California, and I find England, what shall we say, very wet and very, it's not cold, it's chilly. It's chilly all the time here.
I agree with you on that, though I will say I know from humidity and wet, England does not have quite that. I would call it damp all the time.
How long did it take you to adjust?
I do not think I've even adjusted these days. There are still times when I will be bundled up and my colleagues look and scoff at me a little.
And she sort of looks at it. She goes, "It is beautiful scenery, though."
It is a place that is built upon itself, layers deep.
It's a good way
I
of putting it.
think that is different. It is layers of its own history. I know that California, where you're from, is layers of different people's history. What is it you'd like to get from him? Is there a piece of information, a question that you have, something that you'd like to learn here?
I think I want a sense of, is there a network of other mages and where are those? For me, it's like, I know I have the little group here, but also who are other like secondary folks? Like, or where are they, or what are they called? Just like some hint in case things get really big and bad, because I don't have the Armitage house here, so far as I know.
Right.
So it is that sort of thing of going, when I need help, when things get too much. And because she's always in survival mode when it gets to this stuff.
He will give you some names of a couple of people. He warns you away from Portmere. And he will actually mention that Miss Dice again, and not in a particularly positive note. Says, I have met her and she is reckless. But he'll name a couple of others, and he says, and of course there's E as well.
Is your uncle?
No, he is what? He is another follower of Blake. E is short for Any Harmon, the Zoas.
And she kind of goes, I don't think I understand.
He is he I believe undertook earlier the same path that Crispina did, but turned away from it. He is a magician who knows a number of people. I know that he is in Crispina's debt. His name is Oliver Gray. He's a composer. I know he studied with Elgar very late, but then has also studied with Raith von Williams. Two very different people, a nationalist and a socialist there. But he's in Worcester.
Oh, all right. And she sort of
If there would be someone that I would trust to go to that isn't necessarily a member of a coven or a group that may have other agendas, it would be him.
Oh, okay, good. And she sort of stops, and a composer, that's excellent. Systematic. I like that.
True. I don't know. I tend to think of composers as more creative types, less than systematic.
Well, they work inside of a system, right? They may break through it and use it, but she goes, they are no less analytic than we.
Well, that might explain Charles Ives, I suppose. All right. Interesting. And I think you'll get that from him. I think you will certainly build a good rapport there, shall we say?
Yeah. And does he enjoy the show?
Oh yes.
Absolutely.
Do you introduce him to your father afterwards?
Absolutely. Because of course he's been helping with the chemistry. And this is my thing is I'm always introducing people to my father and he's like,
I think this time your father perhaps arches an eyebrow as if to say, "Oh, really? Interesting." When you bring this handsome young man with you, well, not
Mhm.
young, but certainly good looking. Though he doesn't say anything, you have the sense that you will have a conversation about this later.
I look forward to it.
Wilford,
Yes.
this is you can decide whether this is before or after your adventure with Whitewood. Who do you want to do a scene with? Who do you want to call NPC or PC wise? What's the interaction you'd like to have here?
What I'd like to tail Melody von Spal.
Okay.
So this will probably be before, because she is based in Oxford and I'm in Oxford. I would like to know a bit more about her.
Okay. Let me grab this real quick. And is this just kind of following, trying to get a sense of what she's doing, that kind of thing, who she's associated with?
Yeah, who she is associated with, I think would really be what I'm looking for. I'm not planning a house invasion or anything, so
Okay. Let me pull up my notes on her real quick. Some things are in clear places, other things are not. So, what do you think is the appropriate investigative skill for this?
I think no, shadowing actually isn't an investigative skill, is it? Shadowing is a general skill. So I think streetwise.
Okay. That does seem reasonable.
Have spent one from the large pool of streetwise.
So I need to check very quickly who she is in contact with here.
I'm just curious, why wouldn't you use shadowing?
Because it's a general skill.
Yeah. And this is an
Well,
investigative, yeah. If we were in an action scene, I would have him roll the shadowing roll there. Let me check. There's another name here I want to see if I can track back to. This book is unusual in that it doesn't have an index.
PDF search is your friend.
I know, but then I'd have to open up Adobe and let's see. Oh, I am going to have to do that. Hang on one second. There's a name here I want to make sure of before I answer. So definitely she is a dealer to the upper class. You will see her meeting, certainly talking and doing sales with people who are, shall we say, posh. Though you do get a sense that there is a little bit of her kind of putting that on, that she has to try harder.
Well, she is Dutch.
Exactly. Find this other name. One person that she interacts with is a, surprising to you, a fence operating in Oxford. And his name is Tobias Kenway.
Okay, well, I think we can lay a few further plans, then maybe involving the Hoxton gang. I'd like to say an intercity away day visit, but they haven't been invented yet.
The other person that you will spot, interact with Spall, comes to the shop, spends more time than usual, goes out, interacting, is a professor named Harold Godhold. He specializes in early religions at Oxford. And I think with your investigative thing, you can tell that Kenway, the fence, is like obtaining things for Spall. But you have the sense that Godhold is helping push those artifacts, that he is coming to authenticate them, and that there's clearly kind of a racket going on there, whether for money or for supernatural purposes, it's unclear.
Okay, I think we've got the basis of quite a good party type thing if we wish to pursue that. So I'm quite happy there. We've got some good leads.
Perfect. Then let's cut to a vision. I think that you are standing on that ledge, that lip looking out onto the sea, Arthur, and the sea draws back, pulls back, and you'll see there are fish and shells and wrecked ships, and it pulls back, and then you realize that you are on the beach before this, and all of that has pulled back and is looming, and you'll hear the sound of the hooves of the horses, of the stomping, and you will see the surf and the sky and all of that start to form into this figure. And it will appear there and come towards you, and there is a moment where you realize just how small you are, just how big this world is, how easy it would be for this to wash you away. But you hang on to who you are, and you hang on to that Zoas there. How does the Zoas help center you there?
Despite the fact that I can't rely on my drive for scholarship, magic is science, I think that Bromion does reassure me that in knowledge there is power. And I know far more now than I did before our visit to the South Coast. And therefore, I am a speck before Nodens, but I am a spark of intellect in the face of this awesome power.
It looms over you. And then with a thrust, you will feel this spear come down from the sky and pierce you in the side. And you will feel a flicker, and you will see another figure, tall, armored, beautiful. This is not our world. It is another world. You see this figure, and you see it touches its side. You see it pull away its armor, and you can see a wound that is black and bleeding in it. And he covers over that wound and puts his armor back in place. And then the court comes to attend, and Oberon hides that wound. And there is rejoicing and regaling and feasting. And you will see the sort of vision of this pull back, rise up, rise out, and you will feel yourself pass out of this place, and you are flying above this hill, above this mound, and you will see these ruins atop that place. If you want passage, entrance needs be that you must go to Fairy. What you do there is your own. And then it's gone. And you wake up.
Emmeline!
And your wife, who's downstairs, comes running up. Arthur?
Vision from God.
She pauses and she goes, which one?
The only one who matters to me now. Nodens.
Please don't say that in front of the help. And I want to cut from that to the four of you gathered together again in Oxford. We'll assume at Crispina's house once again. Does that seem reasonable? The housekeeper has brought tea to you. Arthur, I think by this point you'll have recovered a couple of points of sanity.
Stability.
Stability.
Okay, so just -3.
Yeah, we'll talk about what the psychological triage and that looks like. How do the others who have not seen you in this state, Isabella and Richard, how do they know that you are a little disturbed?
Well, one, he's late, and he's never been late. Two, he is normally well groomed, well turned out, but his hair is awry, his eyes are staring, he's just rambling.
Richard, what's your reaction to this?
Fascinating.
And I take Richard round by the shoulders and I dance him round the room.
What is it? What is it, Whitewood? Nodens. My God, man, you did the work.
Nodens has spoken.
Can I attempt to use my point of psychoanalysis to return some stability to Arthur here as I unhealthily feed into his mania?
Yeah, I think that's fair. Go ahead and spend that point, and Arthur can recover a point of stability. I think, in the sense that someone believes you very clearly,
Yes.
and is joyful for you.
Yes,
Emmeline didn't believe me. Isabella,
Well-
Isabella, do you believe me?
And she sort of stops and she nods and she goes, and I'm gonna get you some coffee. Just stay right there.
Wilford,
Wilford was there.
what's
Wilford saw it.
Yeah. Well, attention is turned to you, Wilford.
I saw something, that's for sure. I saw something. Yeah, Mr. Whitewood, he definitely saw more than I did, that's for sure. What it was, Mr. Fraser, Miss Grimaldi, I can't say.
I felt him on that cliff top. I felt the power of Albion. And then last night, he came to me. He came to me while I was asleep.
Of course you did, Mr. Whitewood, of course you did.
He showed me. He told me what we must do. We must travel to Fairy, and he showed me where the gate is.
Well, some might say that it was rash to call upon an older god, but I admire the boldness of your decision, Arthur Whitewood. And yes, to Fairy, how wonderful.
Let's not be rash. Let's talk about this.
I shoot you a grateful look, Wilford.
Well, in the
Where
meantime,
be this gateway then, Mr. Whitewood?
And I will describe the hill, the ruin. And I've already spent my archaeology, but I'm wondering whether anthropology or art history or occult or theology
I
might
think
be at play.
Miss Grimaldi has already made the spend for this,
Ah,
and she will be able to identify this as Meon Hill.
Oh
So
yeah, I sent a note about that earlier. So
well, that is where we must go. That is the way to Fairy. And our leverage is that Oberon is wounded. We must cure Oberon of his ill, and he will open the way.
oh, I do happen to know a rather good doctor. That sounds wonderful to me.
Beyond
It is the best.
hill.
It seems the best leader that we have. I fear Viscount Portmere is increasingly linked to our efforts. I hear tell that he has purchased the book from Chessover.
Your book.
My book, which
You know,
indicates that he is aware of our activities at the least.
a moment of clarity and disbelief.
and she sort of steps and says, does that give him any power over you, owning that manuscript? And can we break that?
I mean, if owning, I would rather say it worked the other way, wouldn't it? Surely an author holds more power over his readers than the other way around.
That is a very optimistic way to look at it.
Well, apart from when it comes his publishers, however, that would be a rather different matter. But yes, but whatever the case, he's clearly of some interest. I can't think of why else. It's not a particularly occult means. And what was it we found out about? What was it called again? Walton Mountjoy Estate, significant beech tree that was linked to Nodens, wasn't it? I think
To the Druids.
the Druids.
Or the Druids had a very negative reaction to the location.
A bad tree.
A bad tree. I've seen Evil Dead.
Which is the worst sort of tree. Oh, and I found out who E was.
Really?
Oliver Gray. He's a composer. Annie Harmon is his Zoa. So apparently he could be very helpful, and he is beholden to Crispina for something, so he might be able to help us.
Well, he was clearly Crispina's ally based upon these, and he knew more of these activities than we did.
Not
Yes, I
all-
would suggest we pay a visit to Oliver Gray and see if we may make him our ally as he was Crispina's, and then onwards to Faye, I suppose.
And I assume other
Can't be
information
any worse
is,
than California, Miss Grimaldi.
I assume this information you share, everyone shares their various bits and pieces, are shared. So it sounds like the group is heading to Worcester. Okay.
Oh, and
By the way,
I also share that I went to go speak with
Oh, yeah.
Mr. Over and find out more. And Mr. Hayward was rather unpleasant at the idea of sharing any of his practice, but I have nailed down that it's not the ghost of Chessover, it is the projection of Hayward, essentially, right?
Let that be a lesson, Mr. Fraser. Always go with some backup.
Indeed, indeed. If Wilford had not been there, who knows what would have happened.
So I take it that the group will gather together and head to Worcester, which is actually not that far from Meon Hill, as the crow flies there. Let's take 5, and then we'll come back to the road trip. So Worcester and Meon Hill lies to the northwest there from Oxford, and not that far a journey, but I think we do see the drive there. One of the things I read that's very interesting is this period is before a real change in farming in England, and that as you drive through, the fields are filled with birds. That this is apparently a thing. This is the heyday before they changed how agriculture worked and farming and so on. And just as you drive through, there are flocks of birds everywhere. Let's get a little detail here as we drive along. Who is driving? Is that you, Wilford?
Unless Miss Grimaldi wants to drive.
Isabella's our driver, isn't she?
I couldn't remember.
I think I would love to, because I'm not used to the English rules of the road. So, yeah, I think that's excellent. I have
I would
one in
ride-
driving.
Yeah,
With
I think we've
white
all
knuckles
assumed
on the-
that the Americans are best at driving, whereas actually it's Wilford.
Isabella, I think you'll be shocked at the dearth of markers and traffic controls and such here as you drive along. You have heard them say that one of the safety features on these vehicles is the ability to accelerate quickly so you can pass people safely. And that is certainly what you will see as you are driving along through here.
I also like the fact that there's like, you're driving along a road and there are walls on the road that are like just inches away from your door as you're going through,
Mhm.
because some of the lanes are so narrow.
Did you? I can't remember if you drove much when you were in California. Was that a thing?
Me? Oh, yes, because I was a pretty girl, and so when I would go, I would get the chance to, try driving whenever there was a car around. So
Okay.
yes, that was definitely something I took advantage of. So it's just that the roads and the rules are so different. So
Richard, what's a piece of English countryside, either unusual or ominous, that you see on the trip up to Worcester? I am saying that right, am I not?
Worcester.
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 Putting
Yeah,
you in
like
it.
like Worcestershire sauce.
Okay.
You know? Yeah,
Worcester.
Worcester.
Okay.
I've been enjoying Worcester though, because it reminds me of Jeeves and Worcester, right?
I know.
Yeah. We're heading to his family seat. Anyway, I think that the ominous thing that we see is the ruined church. That from the distance looks like the cross standing out above the hillside and everything. But then as it goes from silhouette to detail, you see that it's just like one wall barely standing up. The rest of it collapsed down and crumbled, strangely desolate.
Wilford, what's another like piece of sort of the English countryside, either historical or ominous, or what else do we see?
I think building on Isabella's remark, it's the dry stone walls with the gates entering fields for farmers to get in and out. And I think that sort of ominous, I think they're just getting bigger and bigger as we get closer to the destination.
Mhm.
Truly at the stage that if you went off the road, your vehicle is going to come off a lot worse than the dry stone wall.
And Arthur, what's another detail of this journey?
I think that this is a trip into pastoral England. So I think that probably as we make our way along these narrow lanes, we find ourselves having to go really slowly as some cows are just moving up the lane to be milked. And as in terms of the ominousness, as we just pass the gate, one of the cows turns and their eye is entirely black.
You will have to stop in Worcester and drive, get directions there, and drive out. You will find out that the Gray Estate is a country house, and you will drive out there. There is a lane that you drive up. A decent amount of woods around here. It's not a huge estate. It's modest, but as you drive up, you can see certainly that there is a horse cart there. There are stables, that kind of thing. And how do you want to approach this? Is someone taking the lead?
Well, I think given that Isabella had the contact from Sebastian, I think that it's Isabella who's the obvious choice. And I can't wait to see the American in action again.
Absolutely. Park the car. The four of you will get out. I think you will notice, Isabella, that Arthur does not immediately go to take charge.
Which seems very strange, right?
Yeah. Isabella, would you please sense trouble?
Oh, sure. Let's see here. So I have 5.
Mm-hmm.
I will spend 3.
Okay.
And then I will, here we go. And then I roll 1d6, right?
Yep.
So that's an 8 in total.
So you all will get out. Isabella kind of started to walk up to the front doors, and you will stop. because no one has come out. I mean, your car came up, it's loud.
Mhm.
No one has come out to greet you. But more than that, you don't hear any animals. It's quiet in a way that you haven't heard here in England.
Yeah, I think she'll put her hand up to stop everyone. And yeah, she'll look around, look for the other break in what's going on, if that makes any sense.
So I think as you kind of move back and forth in front of the house, you'll realize that all of the curtains are drawn on the house. Realize that looks unusual. And it definitely has a kind of a stillness to it that makes you nervous. Hey, check in with Wilford as you see Miss Grimaldi shifting to an alert.
Looking more outwards towards the grounds. What's the upkeep of them like?
You have outdoorsmen, right?
I do, yes.
Do you want to make a spend on that?
I will indeed.
You will be pretty certain that no one has tended the grounds in a few days. No one has walked the grounds in a few days. And to confirm what Isabella heard, that you don't hear any animals in the area. They are not present.
Turning to the house, I have a special ability with Streetwise. I can use Streetwise to identify doors and gates which would usually be unlocked.
Yeah, there is a servant's door around one of the sides that you expect would be easily passed through.
I will pass those details on to my colleagues. Look, around the corner, the servants' entrance.
Richard?
Service entrance seems fine to me.
Come, Mr. Whitewood. Follow us.
All is not well here.
Here, in your head.
And the four of you will walk in, open up that servant's entrance, kind of a walk up into the kitchen, and get this waft, this smell of blood and meat and something else.
No.
What is the state of the kitchen? Well, you say we can get this smell.
Yeah.
I mean,
it has the look of the sort of the Mary Celeste, the in the middle of preparations, the meals halfway made, the goods out on the counter, things left in place, rotting.
something's happened here, I feel. Keep our wits about us. And I will draw my pistol.
Okay. And you will pass into this Next room, there's a room between it and the dining room, and you will move from there, and you will enter into the Great Hall, which has doorways off, has the stairs up, has the balcony, has the giant pile of bones, bloodied and gnawed, laying there. And as you step in and see that and get that full smell, you will see something unwind itself from the corner of the Great Hall and rise up. There's almost no light in here, so it's hard to see, but it is mammoth, perhaps 15, 16 feet tall. Could I have everybody make a difficulty 4 stability test with a potential cost of 4?
I've spent 2 down to -4.
Okay.
And that gets me 5 and 2 is 7.
Yeah, you only spend the 2 as you see this, Richard.
I'm just doing the mental math now on what's worth spending versus so stability. It's a test of 4, right? But a loss of 4 as well at the same time.
Yes,
Is that right?
that is correct.
Okay. So
And that's primarily for the bones and things like that and the shape of this thing. You haven't seen it full on. That may be another test.
oh, true. You know what? It'd be a loss of 4. If I spent 3, it's effectively the same as passing it. If I spent 2, I could fail it and lose 6, right? That would be the overall total.
That's the math.
That's the math. So you know what? I'm just gonna spend 3.
Okay. So you don't have to roll, you will pass.
Just to see if I would have passed it anyways if I'd spent 1. But there we go. I
Uh,
had to spend something. That's worth knowing.
yes. Isabella?
I also will spend 3. Like she steeled herself, and then when she sees that, she goes, and
Wilford?
I will spend 2 because that's how I roll.
Okay. Oh, and that's you losing 6. And that's quite a bit in one shot there, Wilford. Let me check the rules on that for that shock.
I think the rules.
Oh, it's for
rate
sanity.
losses.
It's more of a sanity loss here. And this giant roars out and rises up and comes across the Great Hall at you. What do you do, Wilford?
Shoot it.
Okay. Hit threshold. You need a 3 or better to hit this thing.
I will spend 3 from firearms.
Okay.
That's down to 9. And I got a 9.
Got a 9.
That's a good hit.
So you may roll 2d6 each minus 2d6 straight.
7.
Okay. You will fire off and you will find a soft point in the steely hide of this thing. And you will see blood spray out from it where you hit it, and its roar turns, and whatever direction it was sort of heading in generally, it is looming for you. Isabella.
let's see here. I think I think that I would like to use preparedness. And essentially, I probably will pull up my purse, and I'm sort of a little bit behind all the men.
Okay.
And I'm going to do a chemical flash, like a blinding flash
Oh,
from out of
interesting.
my purse. Essentially, that I have a set of the chemicals there where it's just a real fast thing. So she will probably bring that up, just in an attempt to do that. And since I won't blind my fellows because I'm a little bit behind them, perhaps that will be useful. So I make a preparedness spend. I
Yeah,
understand.
let's do this as a 4 to have it, and a 6 to have it and activate it and blind this thing.
Okay, so I think I will spend 4 then.
Okay. So just don't roll a 1.
Exactly. I can hope. If I do it, then I'll probably blind. Yeah, that would be terrible, but let's see here. Sorry, lost my tab. So I'm rolling 1d6. I rolled a 4, so that's an 8.
So it's dark in here. You've got your torches. This thing is kind of running at you. You've kind of seen the flash of the muzzle and the blood spraying. And then there is this flash from behind you, and you will see this thing. It is like a great stony face, enormous hands. It is naked, but there's the bristly hair all over it, and the blood that is run down its chin and down onto its body. It looks like Saturn devouring his child. That blood running down there, and it will come at you. I think the momentary flash is not enough for another sanity check here for everybody. But let's, Richard, what do you do? This huge thing, it roars out. It's like the sound of thunder when it does from that flash.
Run away.
Okay.
No, you know what? Wilford
You
shot at it, right?
fools!
Yeah, Wilford shot at it, right?
Yeah.
Not appear to have any effect whatsoever.
Oh yeah, it wounded it.
It wounded it. Then I will draw my sword cane
Okay.
and lunge at it.
Excellent.
Yeah,
So
like a knight of
let's
Albion would do, right?
absolutely. Hit threshold is a 3.
Okay. Is a 3. I have 4 in weapons. I will spend. You know what? I'm going to spend 2 points.
Okay.
Yes, 5.
So that will strike at this thing. You will lunge forward. Roll me a d6 minus 1.
Nil point.
So I think you'll feel this thing like it's not. It's mostly that you kind of didn't get the lunge as you wanted to, but you will scrape across it. And I think as you see, like when your blade, the tip of it goes across it, you draw blood through its steely hide with your blade, but you don't bury it into this thing.
The work isn't finished yet.
Yeah.
So, you know.
Arthur.
Given that Arthur is being played by Ian McKellen, he has to scream, "Flee, you fools!" and he will run from the room. He has no stability to spare here.
Okay. You will rush out of the room. Wilford, this thing will swing at you with one of its fists. You may dodge with athletics against its spend here. So let's see, we'll spend that much. Oh, rolled a 1. Difficulty 6.
I will spend 4 points.
Okay. You
6.
just get out of the way of this thing. And when that fist comes down, it shatters the wall. It just, the fist goes through it. It's stuck there for a second before it turns and pulls it back, and splinters go flying everywhere. I think you can see that that flash, rather than blinding it, you can see actually that there is like blood running down out of its eyes.
Interesting.
Wilford.
I will shoot it again.
Okay. Hit threshold is still a 3. It is looming over you.
I will spend 2 points.
Okay.
Four.
That will just hit. Roll a d6.
5.
Again, you find a soft spot and put that bullet into it. It sinks in. It roars out again. Not quite the devastating hit that you landed last time, but second shot into it, and you're standing your ground. Richard.
What kind of preparedness spend would it be to have a flare?
Have a flare?
Yeah, I believe they had flares in World War One, right? So
yeah, I think that's fairly unusual for the circumstances you were going into. So we'll say difficulty 5.
I think it's the only thing I can think of that's brighter than a camera flash and more persistent. Difficulty 5.
Yeah.
Well, your points are there for spending, right? So I will spend 4 points.
Okay. Then go ahead and roll.
That is a 10 overall.
10. So I think you will get this flare out. You give up on striking it with your blade. You grab this flare out and hit that and kind of raise it up. And I think that you will see more of a spray of ichor out from its face. Now I would like everybody to make a stability test. Who is present? A difficulty for stability loss 3 potentially.
I will spend 2 points.
Okay.
7.
You will just spend those 2. Richard?
Gotta spend none.
Okay. Difficulty 4.
Wait a
Hey, keep yourself alive. Grimaldi?
I'll spend 3. I'm set is essentially it.
Okay.
So that's
Then you will pass with the 3 spend.
Mhm.
Isabella, what do you do? Richard has the flare out, the ichor's pouring out of its face. It's been wounded by these bullets, but it's still up and moving.
Mhm. But we do have the flare, so there's light around, correct?
Yes.
I will turn. Usually they have like guns near the essentially up on the I would think that they have them there that you could pull it down for in case of a situation, or that they have them ready. Could I pull down
Preparedness
one of
4 for there to be
Okay, I
a
will spend it.
happenstance weapon that's there and loaded.
Okay, sounds good. I will do it. Yep, I'll pick up a hunting rifle.
Okay.
And essentially I'm pretty close, so I can just wherever I've seen it scored before, I will just like where Wilford shot it before, I probably will shoot there.
Okay.
Like aim at that. And I have
was probably a shotgun. There
okay.
we'll say like like that kind of thing. Let's
And I do
have
have
you.
firearms aplenty.
Yeah. So go ahead and make that roll. A 3 is your target number.
I will roll with a 3. So hopefully. So 1, so I do hit.
You
but
do
not
hit.
great. Yep.
Roll me a d6.
Okay. 5.
5. So that will fire this off. It goes off, and again, not a deep wound, but it bites into this thing, and it roars. But I think with the one, you also realize that was the shot that was in this. Like
Oh,
there was
absolutely.
one cartridge in there. Arthur, just to check in, I know you're running and you're hearing this thunder and this roar behind you as you run past the bones and so on. Where are you going?
The vehicle, the car, the motor car.
Running outside for the car. Yeah, absolutely. Wilford, actually, no, Richard, this thing will turn and will raise both fists and it will swing at you.
I will try and dodge out of the way, holding up this flare,
All right. It is that flare is definitely hurting it, like it's causing it physical damage, but it is swinging at you. And a difficulty 10 athletics test.
Difficulty 10. Okay. I really don't want to fail that, do I? You know what? If you were really being swung at by a huge monster, would you actually hold anything back? I don't think you would, right? So I'm going to spend all of my points of athletics in it because it makes no sense to be like, oh, I would only do half the effort, right? Like,
Okay.
Yeah.
How many are you spending?
All 8.
All 8. Just don't roll a 1.
Just don't roll a 1. Not that far off though.
And the floor is that good old English oak. There that the just and it smashes into that, and the floor gives way where it hits, and it just misses you there. This thing is like clearly off balance now, like it's trying to keep itself together, but you've pinged it, wounded it, that the gore is pouring out of its eye sockets now. Wilford.
Shoot it again. You've
Okay.
got 6 shots in a revolver.
Absolutely. Let's have you make that roll.
I'm going to spend 3 points.
That is
Excellent roll.
9. 2d6.
Let it be good. Yes, a 10.
Good, solid hit. This thing roars back away, and kind of takes a couple of staggering steps backwards. Richard.
I mean, the flare seems to be doing far more than the sword did, didn't it? So you know
The floor,
what?
the sword goes through armor.
Already?
Yeah, that's what I was describing, the cut on it, like that,
Oh, yeah.
that potentially you can get past its skin.
Sword in one
yeah.
hand, flare in the other.
Yeah, that's true. Screw it. I will spend my remaining 2 points of weapons to
You're losing money not spending it.
yeah, exactly. To lunge forward with the like Paul says, the sword in one hand, the flare in the other, waving one up as I lunge forward with that one. So that is a 6.
That will hit.
Mm-hmm.
Roll me a d6.
-1.
-1.
Oh, that
Oh,
was
nice.
time 5.
Isabella, this thing staggers back, and you see that blade, that sword cane. I mean, and the sword canes, they're sharp and all, but they kind of look like toy weapons in some ways. But he buries it into this giant. It staggers back. There's gore pouring out of its face. It's bleeding from these wounds. The blade is buried into it. What do you do?
I sigh and I pull my pistol out of my bag because I have no other ranged weapon. So.
Difficulty is 3.
All right. Well, I have 3, but I'll roll.
Suspending it all.
And that gives me 9.
So roll me 2d6.
Okay, this is the thing that matters. So 2d6. A 10.
So, Wilford, you turn another shot into this thing. You hear the roar as Richard buries that blade into the side of this thing. And then Isabella, who, puts that shot into its open mouth, and there is a roar again. The whole, I think the windows shatter. You'll see that from the outside, Arthur. And then there's just this crashing sound as these boulders, rocks, where it once stood, just fall and smash onto the floor there.
Magic.
Arthur gets quiet. Oh,
I was just going to say, I think as those rocks and everything crash down, right, that flare gutters out, plunging the room into darkness.
Arthur, it gets quiet.
And after waiting a moment, Arthur crawls out from underneath the car where he has sought shelter. And rather kind of querulously calls, "Hello, the house."
It's fine. I mean, it's horrible, but it's fine.
And Arthur will kind of appear at the window and look in.
And
I say.
I think that's where we're going to stop for today. We will take up next time with the investigation of the aftermath at the Gray Mansion or Gray House, and carry on from there. Does that seem reasonable? So we're still in the middle of the case, but I will give everybody a build point. And if you don't mind, I'd like to do quick stars wishes for next time. Let's start with Paul.
Yeah, I mean, I loved the scene on the cliffs of Dover with Alan's character Arthur, and the individual investigation scenes. Again, Isabella, you got some really good, or should I say, Sherry, you got some really good information that allowed this to progress. So that was nice to see. And Will going into a place alone, always good to see it. Why not? You didn't die. And to both you for staying in the fight there. I was more than happy to dive in. I did think it may just be me, but no, it was nice to see a little bit of damage encourages majority to stay and fight.
It does a d6 plus 4 damage.
It
Just
would have
to
hurt.
tell you.
Yeah.
So
Before.
Wishes?
More East Anglia. Yeah.
Okay. I have noted that in the thing. I will say, as an American, it is very hard for me to pinpoint exactly what constitutes East Anglia when I go to look at the maps and stuff, and then having to work it out. It's the hump on the one side. The hump.
So Norfolk and Suffolk.
Yeah.
On the coast, and then one county inwards. So Essex and Cambridgeshire.
Okay.
Do the easy thing of just this place that doesn't exist. Oh, it's in East Anglia.
Well, certainly McMath is in East Anglia.
Indeed,
as I recall. And that's, of course, where Dunwich is well.
Yeah, exactly. We have to pitch it Dunwich, don't we? I mean, that's just
Dunwich.
Yeah.
Dunwich.
God. Brits. Americans.
You've got letters. Why don't you use them?
So many letters, so little sound.
Richard.
Yeah, I mean, I'm glad that Arthur did something quite rash and invoked Nodens, an elder god. Probably being slightly more familiar with Nodens than other people here. I think that went relatively well for you, given how it can go for other people.
I thought you might fuck up that
right?
I wasn't sure if you could actually complete that ritual, and I loved it.
Yeah. Yeah, well, I was like, well, if we're going to go take the two of them off to do probably the most dangerous ritual out of all the ones that we uncovered. Let's see what happens when it goes wrong.
Yep.
And to you, Lowell, for my I don't know what character I want to have a scene with, because I could have just gone for the easy pillar of stability, right, and restored my stability to full, but I'm not that interested in that. But I haven't interacted with anyone. I don't want to just keep hitting up my journalists. So you know what? I'm curious about Chessover. Richard's demonstrated to be pretty brash about pursuing his curiosities, so let's just do that and see what shakes out. Thus confirming one of my theories about Chessover, which is that he's just a puppet of Hayward, which is valuable knowledge in itself, right?
Yeah.
Even if it didn't turn out properly, in a very beneficial way. I should have come with a point of bargain, obviously. But and also a big star for a fight with a fairly dangerous monster. I obviously don't expect there to be all that much of that kind of thing, but I did really enjoy having it. I would be more than happy for more of that kind of conflict, like or even like down to the standard thing of like there are cultists, right? Like there are people who you have to deal with as well, right? My big wish though would be for more ritual, like we've got some spells, right, but it's going to take us a while to actually use them. They're quite specific and things. I'd like to explore those rituals and those ways of like almost circumventing or enhancing the fictional position for investigative point spends, right? Because we are magicians, we don't necessarily need to. The spirits of the earth and the air may tell us things that you would otherwise have to be like actually a really competent investigator for, rather than a bunch of mystical dilettantes.
Yeah, I wonder if there's a way to like come up with maybe learning some keywords that people could do some like like not full spells, but more like uses of your magic points to do things within certain aspects, maybe tied to your Zoas or something.
I think there's something in the book about like modifying rituals and spells, like in the Fearful Symmetries.
Yeah, let me take a look at that and we'll see, because it would be nice to let you have some additional uses for that. Okay.
The art, you know what I mean? Like doing that whole kind of like the principle of this and the principle of that, and if we fast for 7 days and we say the name of the angel, whatever, like billion, all of that random stuff that makes sense in a disjointed way. Like, yeah.
There's that in 13th Age where you get one of the feats you can get is a bonus if you like give an entirely new name to the spell when you go to cast it. So yeah, we can figure out some things to do that. Isabella?
This was a game that had a lot of action, but it was a very character-y all the way through, and that is, I love everyone in this game, players and their characters. It is just, you guys just get so much in every scene. It has been fabulous. Also, this is sort of, how do you say, everything's tightening up, like the troubles and the problems, and we're getting closer to the showdown, the big showdown. And I actually feel a lot of tension about it. So it's working well. And I spent a lot of points today. I don't usually do that. So wow. Good times.
Wishes?
Let's see here. I think that I want to think about my Zoa and actually kind of bring that in more. That sort of thing of being the traditionalist in the group in some ways. Maybe just because I don't know what's okay to, differ from as much socially and things like that. I think that could be very interesting. I just want to figure out how to bring that in a little bit more.
Yeah, and I'll share with you the materials that Steve Dempsey sent me the links for very generously. There's some interesting stuff there.
Cool.
And last but not least, Arthur.
Oh, this is great fun. It's a classic example, isn't it, where the player doesn't understand the rules any more than Arthur Whitewood understands exactly what he's read in a grimoire. And so, that was just fantastic, because I didn't know what was going to happen either. And we were down to the wire there. So that was just tremendous. And stars for leaning into that, Paul, thank you. And likewise, Lowell, for just giving it so much flavor. And then when Nodens turns up in the dream, that's just bonus points. I enjoyed Richard trying to talk his way out of a gun and being held up with a gun. But I could promise you the rights to my next book. Duh. Yeah, brilliant. And Isabella was all in today. I was glad to see a flashbang came out the back pocket, and we have discovered flares existed, because they did. So all that was brilliant. In terms of the kind of magical bits and bobs, each of us does have a benefit from the Zoas. And I think maybe if we begin to dress those up into some magical trappings, those are our kind of no-brainer, do this, spend a point of stability. I mean, because I was looking at yours, Paul, dealing with forces or foes, spend 1 point of stability to be protected.
It is a great one, but I was fearful that basically somebody else would then get smacked. So yes, it's good when I'm on really low health and want to kick it off me, but as I am probably the best dodger, I was worried that massive clobbering would incapacitate young Will.
And I think that might have been true, but I think kind of, if we start dressing up those bits of mechanic with magical trappings, that becomes our kind of cantrips, the things that we can use without having to learn new spells. Because I have to say, I think the fact that we are magically weak and out of our depth is kind of where we ought to be at this point in our magical careers. What else? Wishes.
But I certainly should give you some ways to do risky stuff with the magic too.
Wishes. I think that Arthur needs to spend a little bit of time next time having a stern talk to himself. To just try and get himself above zero in terms of stability.
There's that moment when you realize you're under the car. You go, oh.
Yeah, exactly. This is what it's come to.
You mean you want to get your stability back before you enter into fairy?
Well, back is, remember, I'm coming from 15.
Yes.
That is a forgotten country.
Absolutely fair.
I'm intentionally not passing by on a lot of stability choices, because I just want to see what happens when we get to those points,
Well, you could just carry on watching Arthur. That tells you all you need to know. I know, I had a good time today. Thank you.
Awesome. Thank you all very much. I am going to stop the recording.